YouTube, in this video I'm be talking about how to get more fast twitch muscle fibers, so you'll be able to sprint fast, because the more fast twitch muscle fibers you have, the faster you're going to be able to sprint. The reason why we want more fast twitch muscle fibers is because slow twitch muscle fibers have a lot of power, but it takes a long time for this power to be produced and released. But what if this power could be done in a faster manner? This is where the fast twitch muscle fibers come in. The goal is to convert muscle fibers that don't have a specific coding to either slow or fast twitch to fast twitch, because you have there's a bit more complex than this, but there's three types of muscle fibers. You've got the slow one, the fast one, and a third one which you convert to either slow or fast. We want to get as many of these either or muscle fibers to fast twitch as possible. And you might be thinking, how are we going to do that? Well, three avenues you can go down to pull this off: sprinting, plyometrics, and gym. Sprinting, we don't really need to go into much effort in how to do that, because as long as you sprint, you will start to develop more fast twitch muscle fibers anyway. But it's important to understand that after a while your body will adapt to sprinting like it does with most things, so the progress will either slow or come to a complete halt, which means the only things you can use would be plyometrics and the gym. Plyometrics, the way you want to focus on doing it is understanding there's two types of plyometrics. You've got strength, well, more just power plyometrics, and speed plyometrics. Whether a plyometric exercise is in either category is determined by the ground contact times that happen with every single touch on the ground you make. If the ground contact time is long, and you'll know it's long because you'll be able to feel it, that is a power plyometric, with basically the sole goal of that being to build you more strength. If it's a speed plyometric, you'll be up and off the ground extremely quickly. So for comparison, unilateral pogos would be with just one leg. A pogo with one leg, that would be a power or strength plyometrics. But bilateral, both leg pogos, would be a speed plyometric, and from there you can go further and further and find more plyometrics that are more strength based and more plyometrics that are speed based. Essentially, you want to get the plyometric with the lowest ground contact time or ground contact times and do those repeatedly to try and teach your body how to be able to fire your muscles in a fast twitch manner. I'm not saying that these strength plyometrics also won't be able to teach your muscles how to fire in a fast twitch manner, because the ground contact times, even with the longest plyometric, would not be longer than a second. But for the most efficient outcome, you also want to make sure you're using plyometrics with really low ground contact times, like bilateral pogos or bounds. Though obviously a combination of the two will help you to progress. Now in the gym, this is the real focus of the video, because this is where people tend to mess up. A lot of people go to the gym for sprinting and then they come back 6 months later in their season and they say they're slower, and they blame it all on the gym. And that's not true. The gym is not the problem. What is the problem is yourself. How did you train in the gym? Because we have to remember that when we get into the blocks and it's time for us to sprint, the longest ground contact time we're going to have will be the first step we take to push out of the blocks, and that will be done in less than a second. In fact, you will come out of the blocks in less than half a second, and even less than half of that, which means you need to be able to produce force in that tiny time frame. And to teach your body how to do this, you need to understand two things. First of all, your body is doing this with when you're pushing out the blocks, it's both legs, but for the majority of sprinting, your body is doing this with one leg, and the amount of time your body has to produce all of this force is fractions of a second. So if you're in the gym and you're doing heavy deadlifts, heavy squats or whatever, and you haven't started to tone your exercises to be closer towards sprinting in the amount of time it takes to fulfill the movement, then it's only understandable that you're going to get slower, because you are getting stronger. Your strength and your power is increasing. However, the problem is you haven't converted this into speed, because your power, let's say you started off the season only able to do a 50 kg squat, and now you can do a 100 kg squat. You've doubled your abilities, but the speed at which you do this 100 kg squat is slow. It's probably going to take you 2 seconds to get down and up out of the squat if it's a 1 rep max, or maybe slightly less if it's not 1 rep max, but that's what you usually train. But compare, even if it's just 1 second, compare 1 second to milliseconds. It's a very, very big difference, especially when you're considering the fact that you're in you've finished the push out of the box in about 0.2 to 0.4 seconds. A whole second, which is an underestimation of or overestimation of probably your abilities with a 1 rep max or close to it. Is very different, because if you wanted to be able to get that much power out of the blocks, then you'd have to stay in the blocks for an equivalent amount of time. And if you was to spend an entire second in the blocks, then what that would look like would be, imagine your 10-meter personal best. Your 10-meter personal best probably ranges between anywhere from 2 seconds to 3 seconds, or give or take. If that's the case, then consider the fact that with that time, if you used to just to half it, obviously this isn't very accurate, but half of that would roughly equate to 5 meters. You'd have traveled 5 meters. And now consider how many steps it would take for you to get to 10 meters. Let's say it takes you eight steps to get to 10 meters. That means by the time it takes for you, if you used all of the power you generated in the gym to push off the blocks and land, maybe not even land, but just push off the blocks, everyone else in the field has taken 4 steps, on the assumption that they also take 8 steps and their personal best is the same for 10 meters. Or if you just look at it as you racing against you, you're already 4 meters ahead of yourself before you've even pushed off. And yes, the goal is to generate as much momentum as possible so you can propel yourself forwards. But if you're generating momentum, but the time being taken to do this is too long, there isn't much point in doing that. And in fact, I have a video of myself when I was learning how to fire the glutes out of the blocks. My body didn't understand how to turn the glutes on and off. So I accidentally did this essentially, where I used all of the power I had, but I did it with really slow movements. So everyone was able to get either 1.5 steps or 2 steps on me. Only one person failed to get any ground on me. If you looked carefully at the video and you noticed the ages of all the people that were going against me, the person that didn't get any ground on me, he looked like he was about 7 to 9. And the other people, I'm pretty sure they were, other than the one woman in there, they were all doing their GCSEs. So they were just starting their A levels. So they were either, actually I can't be asked to do the conversion for America. But the point is, they weren't very old. And compare that to me, who's 18, with who's got about 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 year gap on the majority of them, and I couldn't get as fast as they did. That would just go to show what would happen if you used to try and push out the blocks in a really slow manner, just like that. So what does that mean? That means we need to figure out how to push out the blocks at the same rate we already do, with better form, but faster. And this is why people are able to improve in the blocks, because the blocks, to get faster out of it, produce more power, to get a faster 10-meter time, it's not determined as much as on form as the rest of the 90 meters of the races. A lot of it is just how much work did you do in the gym and how was this work. Once you've got the power, you need to convert this power to speed. How do you do that? Well, if you couldn't sum it up or guess already, then you need to get the time and attention you have when you're sprinting, well, not when you're sprinting, but when you're in the gym, down, so that it can mimic sprinting as much as possible. So you're able to get these improvements as fast as possible. So that means that you will still be doing squats, you will still be doing deadlifts, but the type you're going to be doing is different. If you're doing full range of motion squats and full range of motion deadlifts, though deadlifts not so much, that's going to change. For example, you're probably going to be doing box squats and trap bar deadlifts if you wasn't doing those before. But the difference here is you're going to be doing them whilst trying to train for anti-glycolytic. I made a video on that already explaining what that is and how it works. But essentially, the main focus here isn't actually on the anti-glycolytic training, but it's to be able to produce this force in a fast manner. The way I've done it personally myself is let's use box squats as an example. I've done 120 kilogram box squats, 10 reps, and I have to time it. I timed and got 10:18. That was my best time yet. That's what you want to be doing when you're going to the gym, if you want to convert the power into speed as you move from your off season into your pre-season. And you want to continue this as when you're actually in your season as well, along with obviously Olympic weightlifting movements like clean and jerk and snatch, because those will always be helping you, because the time and attention for those is minuscule. And as long as you make sure that you focus on not sinking at all when you're doing these movements, so you do power cleans instead of a clean, then the improvements are just going to come more and more and more and more. Which means if you want to be able to improve your 10-meter time, you're also going to have to focus on improving how quickly you're able to do these 10 reps of these exercises. For example, for me, for the 120 kilogram box squats, 10:18, my goal here is, I have this thing where I go up 10 kilograms, because for box squats, it's really easy, because to be able to do it properly at the right speed, you're not going to be able to do crazy numbers, because box squats are easier than a full range of motion squat. So what's going to end up happening is the box squat numbers you're going to do will start slightly below your squat personal best. And to know whether this is the right number for you, you want to make sure that you're able to get it done in less than 11 seconds. Well, actually more like less than 12 seconds, but you want to be on the lower spectrum of the 11 seconds. So for example, if you're getting a time that is higher than 11.3, then you want to go down in weight. And once you found that range, you want to work with that, and you want to keep doing, I'd say the way I do it is 3 sets of 10. And you're not usually allowed to have really long rests for this, because it's really explosive. You're not going to feel any fatigue, but it's really explosive. It's just important that you do 3 times 10 with 8 minutes rest. Don't cut down the rest 8 minutes. And unless you're going to be trying something new, like trying to train for 400 meters or something like that, where you want to keep the rest times low. But though I would say experiment with that, because I personally haven't experimented with that yet, so I can't say if that's good or not, but I know 8 minutes is safe. So 3 times 10, and for every single set, do it as fast as possible. Make sure every single set is timed. Get someone to time it for you if you can't time it, and if you really can't find someone else to time it for you, or you just don't want to speak to anyone else in the gym, record yourself and listen to yourself say 3, 2, 1, go. And the second you start moving, that's when you start to time. If you have an iPhone, this is really easy, because you will literally be able to see the milliseconds, so you'll be able to see how long it took for you to do the movement. And then from there, you just go. And you want to get from, let's say you did it and you managed to get 11.3 for the first time, but then that's the weight you're going to be using. Then you want to get from that 11.3 and you want to get down below 9 seconds. If possible, you want to get to an 8-second time, because 9 seconds is safe. It's very, very safe, but you want to make sure that you're doing this as fast as possible. You don't want to go up higher in weight very quickly, because especially at the start, you'll realize that once your body understands how to do the movement, the numbers will just quickly go up, and the times will have to go, because the times are going down. But you don't want to quickly go up just like that. You want to take your time, let your body adapt, because if you just go up because your body's figured out how to move properly, then you're going to have problems when you get higher and higher up into the weights. Plus, the technique for this is slightly different to how you'd normally be doing squats, because you're doing them fast. You're not really giving yourself any time to feel tension, because it's basically just a pure tendon movement. Because you want to, if I was you, I'd try and get down to about 8 seconds. Less than 9 seconds is what I usually say. So an 8-second time. The lower the better, though. And once you've gone to that, now you can move up. If you've gone to that point for a squat or deadlift, as long as it's a leg movement, you can improve by 10 kilograms. I'm playing around with upper body movements myself with doing the same thing, but the problem is this can become half reps, because I mean, obviously box squats are half reps anyway, but for upper body movements is slightly different. But I would say for upper body movements, increase those by 5 kilograms. But besides the point, mainly I would say focus on the legs, because as long as you're doing stuff like explosive push-ups, where you just do a normal push-up and then you push off the ground. That should basically be enough anyway for your upper body. But once you've done that, you just keep moving up and up and up and up and up, and you'll realize that if you started doing this when you was actually still on track, because for my off season, I train on grass, so you're actually able to see how your 10 meters from when the preseason starts until when the preseason ends, and you've been doing this the entire time, you should notice an improvement in your 10-meter time, as long as your form hasn't degraded or anything like that, and anything like that. And as long as that's occurred, you'll be able to see the improvement, because just like how it is in sprinting, the numbers here matter. When in the gym, now the numbers are almost directly correlated to how it is on the track. Obviously not so much when you're going further and further into the race, but especially at the start, the numbers are very, very correlated. So improving the times and improving the weight will be able to show you a direct improvement towards your 10 and 20 meter times, and up to about 30 and 40. And as long as this is happening, then you know that you can expect a PB when you actually go to start sprinting 100 meters, when you start to go for your 60s. Because if the improvements, they're not going to be crazy big unless you did this really, really well. And with me, I'd say crazy big is about a 0.1, so 100 millisecond or 0.1 second improvement, because that's quite big. If you was to get an improvement like that, then you know that something crazy just happened. But if it's not like that, and you haven't really been improving much, it's fine. But now you've figured out that you need to be doing these faster movements. Once you've built the power, you need to convert this power into speed. And once you do this, the power will become speed and you will be able to improve. And this will mean that your fast twitch muscles are increasing, because to be able to improve this, whilst your tendons are doing the majority of the work, the muscles are still supporting, which is going to mean that the fast twitch muscles the muscles that could have become slow or fast have all been converted, or at least most of them are converted to fast twitch. And the reason why this is much better than sprinting or plyometrics and converting fast twitch muscle fibers is because you know the fast twitch muscle fibers are improving when your time goes down. At the start, not so much, because your body just figures out how to do it properly. But when the weights start to go up, you know your fast twitch muscle fibers are improving when the times are going down and the weights are going up. It's a very easy way to be able to tell, because there's no way you'd be able to improve your fast twitch muscle fibers if you wasn't doing these, if you wasn't doing this as fast as you were, and you wasn't able to see it. If you're doing plyometrics and sprinting, obviously if you get faster in sprinting, you know you've probably improved your fast twitch muscle fibers, but there's a good chance it was just you improved your form, and your fast twitch muscle fibers haven't really been stimulated enough or needed to be stimulated enough to start to cross over, if they really even have been. But in the gym, your body is forced to do it because you're directly focusing on these muscles. And since you probably already squat, your body's struggling less to figure out how to do the movement, because it basically just needs to figure out how to do the same movement faster with less range of motion, which isn't really hard to do. And then from there, it just figures out how to be able to power through all of that to make you move faster. And that obviously is going to force your body to improve the amount of fast twitch muscle fibers you have, so you're going to be able to sprint faster when you get back onto the track. If you like my video, like the video, let me know in the comments section below. Check the description, because anything I forget to say in the video, I always put in the description. And if you like my content, subscribe. Helps the channel out a lot. I post every 2 days at 1 PM Greenwich Mean Time. If you don't know when that is, just hit the bell and then you'll be notified instantly.